How do you get a student to begin to have this belief system or confidence in finding their own voice?
Clinton described it at a good analogy. It's like a gumbo. You know, you throw all these sound in a pot, and technique, and concept, and all this theory, and you practice, and you kind of put it all together. And if you just look at it, it's all these different things. And after a while, once it cooks for a while, it becomes something different. I remember it becomes one thing. It'll become like a stew or a jambalaya or whatever it is. But I remember someone telling me, you won't have your own sound until you're in your 30s. Because that's how long it takes for everything to mesh and blend where you can kind of come out of it. And
that's great.
And if a student is, or a certain amount of time, he was talking 30s to me when I asked that question. But I think it takes a certain amount of time. So if you start when you're 10, maybe it'll start to happen in your late 20s. Or if you start it when you're 20, maybe it'll happen. But whatever it is, I think it has to just happen. Because if you don't draw on any kind of concept that already exists, to just come up with your own. And there are some, I've had students say, yeah, I'm not playing like anybody else. You're right about that. You know, but they think that, you know, I'm just going to do whatever I want and it's all free. And, and even that sounds like somebody who would just be free and just do whatever. But I think it takes time, and I don't think you can rush it.
Yeah, you know, great points. You know, I think a lot of it is just simply a matter of paying attention. Pay attention to what you sound like. You know, you know, for instance, I had last night. I have one of the buddies I was telling you about who we started playing together in 4th grade. We both got married around the same time. Both have kids around the same age, and he's a fireman captain, and my son's going into he's a lifeguard. You know, here in Newport Beach or where we live, and he wants to get into. He's going to take his EMT, and he's interested in the career in fireman. You know, firefighters. So he did a ride along. My buddy and I had lunch the other day, and he said, "Look, if if you let Robert do a ride along, I'll give your son who plays trumpet in high school a lesson, and we'll do a little bar." Great, you know. Cool. So I got together with my buddy's son, really good player, but he's a junior in high school, and he sounded like he was a junior in high school. And I said, okay, just in that, not that juniors in high schools can't sound great, a lot of them do, but he had kind of a sound like a typical high school player. And I said, you know what, let's stop for a second. I want you to play again, and this time I really want you to pay attention to how you sound, and I want you to sound the way you want to sound. Do you want to sound kind of timid, where your phrases are kind of choppy, or do you want to sound like Miles, or the players who you're listening to? And so emulate, just have that in your head before you even play, and don't play anything until you know exactly what you want to do. And he picked up his horn. I swear, he gained 2 years. Right. Wow. Just pay attention. Great. And so, with sax players, if you're you play and you just know, well, subconsciously you know that your reed is too soft or too old or whatever, or you just have the wrong strength. Pay attention to that, and you need more resistance. Change, experiment, try other things, and get to that sound that you want to hear. Same thing with every other piece of equipment, or and your practice routine. Realize that when you practice correctly, with the metronome and full sound, and the embouchure and the air and all that, all that stuff, that you're playing. Wow, something lines up. But by paying attention, it like you're playing instantly. It can't not improve because you're not just going through the motions. We're all so busy thinking about all the mechanics that it takes to play that we forget about the most important thing is how we sound. Right. So just think about the end result and you'll get there much faster.
It's self-aware kind of discussion. Self-awareness, being aware of what you are, what you hear before you play it, or play it as you play it. How about you, Ralph?
Yeah, that's a really good point, Eric.
Thank you.
I think that's right on target. For years I practiced and I thought I was doing one thing. All through my teens, I thought when I picked up the horn out of the case, I thought I was learning how to play jazz, and I was playing the saxophone to do that. And it seemed to me at the time it was one act, blowing through the horn and moving my fingers and playing music. And this, I think, is similar to what Eric just described. What happened was, I think I was practicing essentially just through the act of doing. And to a certain degree, you can get better at something just by doing it. And there comes a threshold, however, where the act of doing it is not enough anymore. And what I realized is that, okay, I wasn't actually just doing this one act. What I was doing was I was learning how to play the saxophone while learning theory, while learning about sound, while learning style, while learning what to do with my mouth, while learning about tone, what to do with my tongue, what to do, all of these things. And I didn't realize I was doing all of those things at the same time, thinking that they're one. And so it occurred to me, maybe I should practice them separately. And by doing so, then I was able to pay attention a lot more. And in fact, everything became more microscopic, where if I just practiced articulation, all of a sudden I could see my articulation was terrible. If I just worked on long tones, my sound and armature need a lot of work. If I just worked on all these separate things, instead of, in other words, I'll give you an example, like where we'll play a major scale, and start at the bottom of the horn, go to the top of the horn, come back down, and play it single tonguing, for instance. And that one act is supposed to take care of working on our fingers, our digits. It's supposed to work on articulation. It's supposed to work on learning the scale. It's also supposed to work on blowing air through the horn. All of these things are supposed to be covered in that one act. And none of them were being done well. So what I found was that, let me just deal with articulation by itself. Let me deal with just blowing air through the horn by itself. Let me just deal with the digits and repetitive motions with the fingers by itself. And then what I found out is when I went to play the scale and put all of those components together, it was like really dessert. It was something I didn't deserve to have until I had done all of those, all of those other things beforehand. Yeah. And then what happened was I actually enjoyed playing the scale, and because playing thirds, we do that. We play thirds, we play arpeggios and all that because we're supposed to do it. And do we ever think that we can actually play thirds in an improvised solo and make music with them? No, that's just something you practice because you're supposed to just practice it, And all of a sudden, by separating everything, I found that when I went to play a scale, I was actually playing it for musical reasons, not to try to satisfy, all of these individual goals, that I could just play a scale and make music with it. I could, decrescendo, I could crescendo, I could accelerando, decellerando, I could really make something out of a scale. And when I realized, as blind as I was, that a lot of music contains scales. And, so yeah, fancy that, right? So all of a sudden, everything that you practice becomes a musical endeavor instead of just something that you're doing to get to a goal, like a throwaway, So yeah, that definitely, I think, tags on. It's a different way of saying it. The idea of heightening your perception of what you're doing, recording yourself, and so forth. A lot of different ways you can do that. Or have a teacher point it out to you. Yeah. Which is sometimes painful, but it's the truth. Yeah.
Great. Well, it's time for the sound check. It's time to have great VandoJam, and thanks for your time. And we're thrilled to have you here playing, and we look forward to a monster night of music.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Can you make your phone do that thing again?
I can't.